Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And as many people know from watching earlier videos on the channel, we strive to put a voice for people who have no voice with regards to women's rights, especially in the onslaught of trans ideology. This is something that we do, this is something we think is important. J.K. Rowling, who this channel admires greatly, is one of those brave individuals who stands up in the name of those women's rights that we mentioned. She faces an onslaught from all sorts of sides, but mainly for her ridiculing of trans men in their attempt to take on women at sports or go into women's safe spaces, things like that. We've praised J.K. Rowling no end. We will continue to do so. She was a lone voice, and as time goes on, more and more voices are joining her in an ever louder chorus of enough is enough. Now, there's an article today in the Mail Online that this channel wholeheartedly agrees with. We side with JKR in her fight. We side with Alison Bailey. We side with Sonia Appleby, and we side with Keira Bell. You may know, obviously, the Alison Bailey is an ongoing trial. We've covered that many times and will continue to cover it on the channel till the resolution is achieved. And Keira Bell, of course, was the young girl who was basically talked into gender swapping when the problem wasn't transgenderism. There were other mental issues, but the trans lobby kind of forced it on her, and she fought. Won a case, and then they appealed, and the appeal was turned the case over. And Appleby was the whistleblower at the Tavistock Clinic, which is an appalling place that just generally will do things to children without parental consent and without sort of psychiatric evaluation. It's a horror show. It's the sort of thing straight out of the 1939 Germany playbook. But we'll take a look at the article, and let's see if you feel the same afterwards, assuming you don't feel the same beforehand. But anyway, let's take a look. So here's the article, and it's before we get into it, like I said, JK was the first of the sort of the celebs to take a stance on this. She took an awful lot of slack, especially by those ungrateful brats who she made millionaires, in the various films. And they sort of turned on her and stabbed her in the back. They'd be nothings without her. They owe her everything, and they've treated her like this. And yet all she's doing is standing up for women and for women's rights. And it's an appalling attack that they've led, an appalling treatment of a fine woman and a brave woman who has risked opprobrium and backlash because she stood up to give a voice where others did not have a voice. Now, of course, she was the first. She took all the slack and the heat. But now others are joining her. And I don't just mean other women who are eminent in their particular fields and might be well known in their fields. We're talking about other celebrities, other people whose name will raise the profile and spread the word. And the likes of Sharon Davis, the swimmer, which is ironic given the Leah Thomas thing in America, who was a swimmer, a man who couldn't swim very well with other men. So he decided to become a woman and race women so that he could win something, because otherwise he'd be a loser. And it's appalling. So well done for Sharon, and the others are joining, and it's trickling, but the momentum is growing. And the momentum is growing with the celebrity endorsements of this, but it's also growing at the ground level where women of authority are joining, but then sort of it's falling from the ground. It's one of those things where it's coming from the top down. You have someone prominent made a stance, then more senior women are making a stance and joining, and then you're going to get the mid-range tiers, and it's going to work all the way down to the ground, and it's going to work all the way down to those who have no voice, to those who are direct victims of DV, of SV, of R. These people will have a voice, whether they have their own voice or they'll have a voice provided by others. Now, this channel, small channel, we're climbing. Our subscriptions are growing. Thank you very much for the growing subscriptions. And every subscription is a slightly louder voice, as I've mentioned before. But we're happy to stand with these people. with JK, with Sharon, and with all those who stand with them. And although it's a woman's issue, what people forget sometimes is that every man has an important woman, a wife, a mother, a sister, a daughter, an auntie, a niece. And 99% of men don't want these things happening to the very important women that they know, the people they love, the people they care for, the people they respect. And so, whilst it seems to be a woman's issue, it's actually a humanity issue, because no man would allow his wife or daughter to be treated like this. And that's why I feel strongly about it, and that's why I stand shoulder to shoulder, linked arms, manning the barricades with women and protecting women, because women should not and cannot be cancelled. So I thank you for listening to me, but I will move into the article now. J.K. Rowling praises 3 women standing up for women's rights and freedom of speech in the face of gender identity ideology, and says history will remember them as heroines. Ms. Rowling, 56, praised Alison Bailey, Sonia Appleby and Keira Bell. Ms. Bailey is taking legal action against her employer and the LGBT charity Stonewall, and we've covered that, as I say, many times in many videos. Sonia Appleby was a whistleblower at the NHS's Tavistock Clinic, which is a place that does intolerable things to children, horrible, despicable things to children. She won damages after being shunned for raising concerns about puberty blockers. Keira Bell took legal action against the Tavistock after she detransitioned, after she was failed by the hospital, who didn't even give her psychological or psychiatric testing. Anyway, and into the article we go. J.K. Rowling today hailed 3 women as heroines for standing up for women's rights and freedom of speech. We're covered. Taking another swipe at trans activists, the Harry Potter author, 56, took to Twitter to heap praise upon Alison Bailey and Sonia Appleby, as well as Keira Bell, who took legal action against the NHS's only gender identity clinic for children after she detransitioned. Posting a picture of the 3 women on Twitter, she said, "One day, books will be written looking back at the full impact gender identity ideology had on vulnerable youth, women's rights and the freedom of speech here in the UK. And these women will rightly be seen as heroines, and indeed will you, Ms. Rowling." Lawyer Ms. Bailey, who Ms. Rowling previously said was inspirational, is currently suing the LGBTQ charity Stonewall and her London chambers over claims she was silenced for her views on transgender issues. I'm not going to go into it. We've covered this 100 times. Social worker Miss Appleby won $20,000 damages last year after being shunned when she raised concerns about the use of puberty blockers at the NHS's Tavistock Clinic. Ms. Rowling has faced a barrage of abuse and even the ending threats in recent years over her views on the trans debate. She has been accused of being transphobic over her insistence that biological sex is real, and has repeatedly taken to Twitter to air her views. Her latest tweet comes after judges stepped in to kill a final appeal over the legal ruling allowing children to take puberty blockers without parental consent. The original High Court case won by Miss Bell against the Tavistock and Portman NHS Foundation Trust, which runs UK's only gender identity development service for children, hormone blockers pause the physical changes of puberty, such as breast development and growth of facial hair. Critics argue they could leave youngsters infertile and have longer term effects on sexual function and bone density, and psychological impacting as well. That is very rarely mentioned. Ms. Bell, a woman who began taking puberty blockers when she was 16 before later detransitioning, calling the treatment a pathway to sterilisation, then lost when the Court of Appeal overturned the 2020 landmark ruling against the NHS Gender Clinic. A terrible travesty of justice. You are now going to say that this hospital can basically take children in. Children can say, "I want to be a girl," for example. They can give these children puberty blocking drugs and gender drugs without parental consent. You can't take an appendix out without parental consent. So how do they justify destroying children's lives. And they don't even do psychiatric evaluations. It's appalling. Judges decided that the decision would not be challenged at the Supreme Court because it did not raise an arguable point of law. So they've made a ruling, they've then repealed it, they've won the appeal, and then been told they can't then go to the Supreme Court because they know the Supreme Court would reverse it again. This is the world we're living in. This is what trans people do. They want to take children and destroy them. Following the court appeal's decision in September 21, Ms Bell said she intended to appeal the ruling at the UK's highest court, but Supreme Court Justices Lord Reed, Lord Sales and Lord Stevens denied Ms Bell permission to bring the case because they don't want to upset the trans lobby, because the trans lobby will get very loud and they will be callists and phobes, and their little tiny spineless bodies, the jellyfish in charge, don't like it. A spokesman for the Tavistock and Portland NHS Foundation Trust, and I hope nobody goes out and burns that to the ground, said, "We welcome the Supreme Court's decision. We are proud of our hard-working, caring and thoughtful colleagues in the Gender Identity Development Service for changing and ruining children's lives without the consultation of their parents." They didn't add, but should have. They and the patients they support is a very strong word, will be relieved by the end of this period of uncertainty. No, they won't. They will sit at the end of it going, why did it happen? Why did they let me do this? And then a lot of them will end themselves. Last month, Ms Rowling held a self-confessed boozy lunch at the River Cafe in Fulham to support the Respect My Sex campaign. Guests included Miss Bailey as well as Professor Kathleen Stock, who resigned from her position at the University after being accused of transphobia because she had this terrible view that women are women, and that men in a frock are not women, and that men in a frock should not be in women's safe spaces. Shock, horror. And in fact, the Kathleen Stock case is appalling because not only was she abused, I mean, terribly abused, with threats of violins, yeah, she went to her own university and asked for help, and they threw her under the bus and actually joined with the people making the threats. I believe she's suing. I hope she wins and takes them. I hope she ends up owning that university. Also present was the author Helen Joyce, who penned the book Trans: When Ideology Meets Reality. The co-founder of Sex Matters, which has united with other causes under the slogan "Respect my sex if you want my ex." Maya Forstater, who another friend of the channel, I've actually communicated with her, and we back her in her fight as well. We've done our videos with her. And they were joined by MP Rosie Duffield, another brave woman, and I'm not normally one to side with the left and the Labour, but Rosie, she gets my complete thanks, and if she was my MP, I would vote for her because I think her stance is admirable, and she's not only fighting out in the real world, she's fighting abuse from within her own party. When you can't even go to work, you know what I mean. And veteran actress and campaigner at Get the L Out of Lesbian Not Queer campaign group, Leanne Timmerman. And yeah, I mean, these women are brave. They're making a stance, and they're getting threats on every day. Threats of V, you know, but S of E, threats of R, threats of being ended. And they're still standing up, and they're not backing down. Ladies, I salute you. And this channel will do everything it can to spread the word and push the message. And well done. And I will come up and round this video off. Yeah, so back up just to end off. As I say, I completely wholeheartedly agree that those three women will be seen as heroines. There'll be others, Maya Forstater, for example, Catherine Stock. They'll be added to the pantheons of women who stood up and refused to be cancelled. So, yeah, well done them all. Well done, JK. Well done, JK, for making this stance and making this a thing. And we wish you all the best of luck in your various endeavours and, you know, court cases and litigations. And, of course, I wish everyone the best of luck in bringing to an end this madness of trans ideology. And we'll end it there. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't before. Ring the bell for notifications of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.